Welcome, everyone. It's Karen Vaughn with another edition of the Exhale Podcast, a Black woman's guide to mental health. And I'm truly excited about today's episode. We're talking about goal getting, yes, and thriving on your own terms. And I'm back once again on the patio. We went from the coffee shop to the patio with Dr. Sigrid Elston. How are you?
I am great and glad to be back.
Yes, it's good to be back. Are you loving the patio?
I am. I'm loving the patio. It's a great vibe.
And we're loving you.
Thank you.
So we're talking about goal setting, and it just really brought me back to seeing all the graduates in the last couple of weeks and graduating high school and how important that goal was. One of our first major goals, graduating from high school. I remember the day, it was cloudy. I graduated from Hampton High School, and I was excited to receive my graduation picture when you're receiving your diploma. My cousin Marcia, her picture was on my grandmother's television. You know, back in the day, the television was a whole piece of furniture with all the family photos on top in different frames. Some were in gold, some were in silver, some were in black, some were in white, some were in pink. And Marcia's graduation picture was up front on my grandmother's television. It was a daily reminder of accomplishment for me when I would visit my grandmother. And I saw the picture and would just always would get excited, like one day I'm gonna have a picture just like that. And high school graduation meant that. It meant accomplishment. It meant just being able to finish something. We've been in school since kindergarten. 12th grade is daunting, getting all the way to 12th grade. You remember your college graduation and other graduations, but high school was just that transitional period of going from a child to an adult and starting to adult and being on your own and being independent. So, and putting together this show, I just thought of goal setting, you know, graduation time, and why not? As adults, we could reset too. Do you remember your high school graduation?
Yes, I do. I graduated from Sprayberry High School in Marietta, Georgia, the home of the Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, I did. And we graduated at the top of June. And I remember my sister graduated from the high school because we had moved down from Jersey. And so I felt bad for her because we moved actually the year before her senior graduation from her high school in New Jersey, and she had already gotten her class ring and her pictures and that type of thing, and so I was able to be at that high school for my whole 4 years, and so it had a special meaning to me that I didn't have to move during it, and so it was an exciting time to be able to graduate with my friends and just be excited about the next step and feeling a sense of accomplishment, but knowing that it was a no-brainer, like something that had to happen in order to move on to the next step.
Right.
So it was a nice time. Nice time.
You
exciting.
remember what you wore?
I remember wearing, well, for my senior pictures, it was a gold outfit, kind of almost a little bit like that color, but a gold kind of two-piece outfit. And we had a few different outfits. So I remember that, but then we had to wear a white dress for our actual graduation. And I was one of the 570-something students who graduated from our class. So it was a good time. There were a lot of us, and I went to the University of Georgia, and a whole bunch of us went on to the University of Georgia too, so it kind of felt somewhat like an extension of high school because a lot of them went to school there too. But it was big, so you know, didn't see many of them there, but it was a good time.
So think of transitioning from high school to college to adulthood, and that being one of our first major goals, right? So how do you put goal setting in perspective for yourself? Like, what do you do to sit down and say, hey, let me put myself on pause and focus on my goals? A couple of things that I do is I ask myself 3 questions, and I kind of do this every year, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I think of what do I love, what would I like to continue to do? Of course, radio, I love media, it's in my blood. That is my love, my joy, my passion, so I definitely know that I will lean into that. The other thing is, what haven't I done yet? What would I like to accomplish, right? And then the last question, what am I tired of? What do I never want to do or see again? Like that ex that cheated number of times that you gave him time after time after I'm sorry. But you're right, like I'm never going down that road again, right? So how do you put your goal setting in perspective?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because there's a lot of carryover from school. Like for quite some time, you're somewhat in an kind of academic schedule, and on that schedule, as far as knowing like there are these breaks, there are these periods that you have off if it's summer or the fall or winter, and so you kind of have these kind of ebbs and flows, if you will, as far as schedule, so you kind of know I'm getting a break. And so, but when you're out in the real world and you realize that you're not on an academic schedule anymore, you do have to teach yourself, like, okay, I have to implement my own breaks because nobody's going to do that for you. So you spoke to a lot of things that I think we don't even think about that we need to do. And so you talked about what are some things that I love. When you're in school, if you're not pushed to have to work, because we know, I don't know if it's family members of ours or even, ourselves, may have to work while we're in school, in high school, some in middle school, and that type of thing. But if you don't have to, and your parents kind of treat it like school is your job, and that's all I want you to focus on, then when you go to college, and that's your same kind of, viewpoint and mentality, then it's like, okay, so I have that. So then what are my extracurriculars? We are strongly encouraged to participate in, if it's a band or some type of activity or club, especially when you're in high school. We're encouraged to do the same when we're in college, to participate in some type of clubs so we kind of connect with other students. So you may end up doing something like that. So what are some things that I love to do with others? And then what's the thing I'm gonna do kind of to myself? Like, how am I gonna give back to myself, and what's gonna be my kind of quiet time, private time, so I can also grow? And so I think that we need to really look at the academic learning that happens should you go on to college after high school, and for some of us who did do that, but also what's the life lessons, the growing that happens outside of the academic education that we get when we learn more about ourselves, how we engage with other people, how we connect with other people. How do we grow? How do we mature? What do we know about ourselves? What do we learn about our families, after we leave them and our dependent, kind of relationships, with them and with other people. And so it's like, those are the things that I think we learn once we either leave home or leave high school. And so your relationships kind of shift a good bit. So then when we start talking about goals, how do you kind of keep that mentality when you don't have a school schedule that's kind of dictating how you go about life? So as an adult, once I'm completely done with school, if you go on to college or tech school or trade school or do something else, or military, and then after that, do you do something that you love? What is your work? How do you, gain income? How do you take care of your bills? But what do you do that's fun? What goals do you set? So if it's a hobby, if it's something that you love to do, if it's artwork, do I do something related to my painting or my craft or, biking or something once or twice a week? And if I miss a time, do I beat myself up about it, or do I just say, you know what, at least I did get it in, once during the week? And so we've got to make sure that we're keeping those kind of goals. And it's hard to do that, to like internally kind of set those schedules for ourselves. But we have to do that in order to continue to function and not be so dependent on somebody else dictating how we go about life. And that's a big part of the maturing.
Sometimes when you start working, and the 9 to 5 takes over
completely,
and all of the extracurricular activities that you love, that you have done in the past, go to the wayside because you're so focused. You have this tunnel vision on success and succeeding at work, and you kind of get lost in work, especially now that we glorify hustle culture and consistent productivity. So how do we not only balance that all, but prioritize our goals? Like, another thing that I do is I have one sheet. There was a time where I had like 20, 25 things on my to-do list, and I'm crossing things off, and then I'm, moving quite a few of those items to the next day and not really feeling accomplished because I didn't set out on all the goals that I thought I can do in a day, or what you feel you should be able to do. So now I've kind of condensed that to 8. I have 3 major things that I have to do a day, that I have to get done, whatever the priority of the day is. And then my 5 additional, I delegate to my staff. There's an opportunity for me to coach up, as well as take a few things off my plate so I can really focus on some day-to-day items or some high-level items that I need to take care of. That has worked, but it took a while to get to that point because we're so part of just being part of that grind, that hustle, that bustle, productivity, because that's what success looked like. But working yourself to the ground isn't successful.
No. And, and understanding that, because, a big part of being successful a lot of times is you want to be able to feel and say that I did this on my own. And it's like, okay, it's great if you did it on your own, but if you have high blood pressure medication, you're going to a cardiologist, you're with this specialist and that specialist, you're not getting good sleep, diet is horrible and things like that because you're stretched so thin, but you pride yourself on being type A personality and being so successful. Are you really that successful? So for you said it didn't happen overnight. Like one of the great things I think can happen is if you do have a staff or other individuals, a team who can help you, then that's great.
But now.
but that wasn't always the case.
No.
So for some people, it may be that you need an A list, a B list, and a C list. So you need to kind of prioritize.
And what would be on the A, B, and C list? How to break that down?
The breaking down of the A, B, and C list is okay. What are things that have to get done? What are things that would be great if they get done? But if they don't, nobody's going to die or suffer. In the C list, okay, if they get done, they do today. If they don't, they can happen tomorrow or another day. And so maybe I don't have a staff or a team to whom I can delegate these other tasks to, but you know what? I can manage these top 2 or 3 things. And so then this is the other piece is, okay, is there a deadline? Is there a timeline? Are these items or tasks dependent upon only me or other people? Do they need to go through some other people before they get to me? Is someone else waiting for me to get these done? Because those are pressures that kind of kind of make them move up, I guess, on the priority list, or the timeline. But the A, B, and C, they just kind of break down how much, do I need to focus on them and in a particular day. So that's one way to look at it. Another piece would be if it's task completion or a time cutoff. So, we might have this piece of like, okay, I am not stopping until I get this done. Well, what happens? We end up maybe missing lunch, missing dinner. If we're working from home, Lord knows during COVID, did we take a shower? Did we breathe? Like all those things can just kind of go off, go off to the wayside.
You're laser focused on that goal no longer, no matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes, but completely lost taking care of yourself. And we throw out like self-care, but I think it needs to really fall under like health, like our health and maintenance. Like I did not take a bath, I did not eat, I did not drink any water. I did not walk and do like a healthy kind of walk around my house or in my house just to stretch my legs. Like that's not healthy for your vessels, for your, your blood vessels. And you like, that's not healthy. And we don't even think about it that way because all we're thinking about is getting this goal accomplished. And is it really our goal? Is it needed to get done? Or is it more so our internal need to get this done because we are type A? Or is it really that someone else is saying, this is due by the end of the week, but we have this internal drive? So I think it's some of those kind of intrinsic or internal goals that we set for ourselves that just aren't very realistic. And so I think sometimes we have to say, what's my cutoff? My cutoff is 6 o'clock. If it's not done by that time, then it's not going to happen. It's going to move to the next day, or if I get it done before then at 4:30, then great. But at 4:30, if I happen to complete this task, am I going to fill up my time with another task, or am I going to say, you know what, I get that time back for me, and then we'll start over the next day with whatever tasks are for that day. And so I think that's the piece of like, how do we take care of ourselves in the midst of goal completion and get out of the hustle, and then we come up short with hypertension and all these other medical conditions that we as African Americans are often at the top of the list for.
And as Black women, we're constantly in a state of do.
Yes, exactly. And so it's really like all we know is to stay in that mode, and so if we don't, what do we start thinking? Lazy, dependent. Who are we expecting to get it done? If it doesn't get done, nobody. There you go. Exactly. Nobody else is gonna do it. So I might as well just go in and keep pushing. I'm already tired, so I might as well just keep on doing it.
So when you think back to goals that you've set for yourself, can you share a personal goal that you had for yourself and how you went about achieving it and going about it, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, I think the biggest goal that I set for myself and pretty early on was when I was 13, I decided I wanted to become a psychologist, and I really didn't know what all it would entail academically. And so I remember looking up, and you will remember this, my dad was like, you know, he wasn't a psychologist, but he was like, well, look it up, research it, pre-Google. Okay, pre-Google.
This is after you watched The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett.
Farrah Fawcett, that's right. And he directed me to look up the World Book Encyclopedia, the burgundy and blue ones, you know.
You had the whole set.
The whole set on the wooden rack.
Yeah.
And so I went out and I looked and I was like, ooh, okay, this is a long time to be in school. He said, are you willing to do that? And I was like, I mean, well, I want to be a psychologist, so I guess I don't have a choice. And so 13, burning bed, and I was like, okay, I want to help people who don't get the help that they need, so I guess this is the only way I'm gonna do it. And so at that point, I was like, this is what I have to do. And so I looked and I was like, okay, so I got to go to college. Okay, so that means that I need to be like super, super smart to like get through school and take some extra classes, some higher level classes to kind of shave off some time. And through that process, I was able to exempt some classes when I went into college because I knew I was going to be in school forever, you know. Felt like it was forever, but to shave off some time to finish my master's a little bit early. PhD program was going to take about 4 years no matter what, so I knew that. But shaving off some time and to finish that degree at 28 years old. And a lot of people do it a little bit earlier, but 28 is usually, you know, a pretty good goal. My goal was to be done at that age, and to do that and go straight through was tough. It was tough, but it was definitely my goal to finish the degree, and then having to get licensed took another year after that. But it was definitely my goal to complete that degree. It wasn't so much about becoming a doctor or having that title, but I knew as a Black woman and in that particular field, that was the degree and the particular kind of licensure or status that I had to have in order to help my people the best that I could, and to be like respected in the field, to be on insurance panels because most of our folks were going to come through insurance. And so to think through all of that I didn't fully know and conceptualize at 13, but as time went on, I was learning, okay, the best way to help my people, I could do it this way, I could do it that way, but the full capacity to be able to help them, I can help folks on Medicaid. I can help folks who are in homeless shelters. I can help folks this way. I can help folks that way. I can have a private practice. I can teach other individuals who look like me, who might not be able to get into this school or that school, or be able to get a supervisor, you know, from this program or that program. I can supervise them so they can get degrees, so they can help people who look like us, who might not have transportation. Like to think all that stuff through, I don't think it's, I'm a martyr or anything like that, but I love to be able to say that I got my degree from a traditionally white institution to come back and help my people after our people built that institution. It is just the greatest accomplishment, I feel like I could have ever achieved, in addition to having my children. It's huge.
When you think through it all, being a Black woman and wanting to lift as you climb, how important was that to you?
Oh, it was huge. I think through, my dad was number 13 of 14 children, which many of us have those stories. If it wasn't our parents directly, it was the grandparents, and of course them coming from the South. He and I think two other siblings were the only ones who went to college. So I knew that his parents had a 2nd grade and 5th grade education. My mother's parents had a 5th grade and an 11th grade education. So I knew that education was something they valued, even though it was not easily accessible. And so they taught me early on, when I saw people in my family who worked various jobs, various manual labor positions, and the ones who were very educated, my father, and other individuals who were educators and had very high positions in government and in medical fields and things like that, I recognized that all these people are in my family, and I need to treat them, recognize them, appreciate them. I love them.
Yeah.
So whenever I saw people who looked like me and didn't look like me and still do work in various positions, I got to help them because that's my uncle, that's my auntie, that's my cousin. And so it's a no-brainer to be able to help people get better, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean having a PhD or a master's degree or whatever, but whatever it is that you want to improve in and gaining some type of knowledge or improving your family life, like that's what we got to do. And so it was a no-brainer for the folks who didn't have but one pair of shoes between 2 or 3 kids, you know, or a set of 4 or 5 families in the South who all shared, you know, food or borrowed this, that, and other, blah, blah, blah. So why do we get so divisive and possessive when it comes to things, money, and knowledge now? Like, that's the thing. So when we get back to this piece of goal setting, mentor, share. What do you know? What's worked to set goals? What's worked for you to reach these goals? Don't just tell it to me or send me some sites. Hold my hand or help me or connect me, make the phone call, you know, introduce me to Karen Vaughn, you know, like let me know who she is and she knows who I am. Set us up so we can know each other and she can give me some pointers. Those are the things that are valuable to me. And when I see that happen, it lights me up.
When we think about mentorship and connecting and lifting as we climb, with your expertise, what are your thoughts on developing a relationship with someone for mentorship? What's the best way of connecting, having that mentor-mentee relationship, and what should you look for in a mentor? You
know, I think it's great. I think you should never feel like you're too old, you know, for a mentor. I think, you know, you hear about like Big Brothers and Big Sisters programs and things like that. And we think mentors, we think about little children, teenagers, college students who mentor younger children, sororities, fraternities, and different organizations who do that. But we don't really think about folks who are grown, you know, who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who need peer mentors, you know, who may be of same kind of age or maybe a little bit further along in their careers, but not a huge difference, who can help us, you know, develop or grow more or make some connections. I think that is, those are great opportunities to happen, but to reach out. And so things to look for. And let me focus on this, what to avoid, let's say that. So what to look for and what to avoid. If you see someone who you recognize doesn't focus only on self-promoting, like what I did, the awards I got, every time they do something, they got to put something on social media so everybody knows. You know, if you know the person, sometimes it's a celebration, and it might be just their little way of celebrating, like, I don't normally, you know, do this, but I just need to, like, say this is something that I did. You know, some people say, oh, I did a little thing, and you're like, okay, is that genuinely a little thing you did, or you just want somebody to applaud you? You know, like, okay, what is that for? And so sometimes you see those patterns, and you wonder, are you doing it for the accolades, or are you, you know, pay attention to patterns that you see of people who you might admire. But when you see folks who don't draw lines, they're not doing it because they're a part of this agency, this company, or this organization. You see them consistently doing service, mentoring, or giving back as an individual, not just a part of something. And they're not giving back or mentoring or serving big organizations. You see them being nice to people. You know, you see them treating people well, no matter how they're clothed or what they're a part of, and you can kind of get a little snapshot of who they are and how they live in different formats, not just when the cameras are on, not just when they're on the stage, not just when they're presenting a fat check, not just because it's, you know, Indy 500 time, or, you know, there's some kind of big event that's going on, but you see them throughout, you know, the year. Those are things that are important to me. I like reviews, you know, being able to check and see what do people say. What kind of feedback do you get? So those are all different things that I admire. When I hear somebody's name often with good feedback,
Yeah.
that stands out to me. And it's like, hey, have you ever connected with Karen Vaughn? Hey, do you know Rita? Do you know David? Do you know Sigrid? When I hear that, that tells me like, okay, that's probably a good person to connect with.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
The unofficial endorsement
Yes.
is always a good
Yes,
sign.
yes,
Yes,
exactly.
I lean into that often.
All the time, not just on the radio, not just on TV.
Right.
But
Yeah,
when I hear
absolutely.
somebody's name come up a lot and in a good way, okay, let me make a little note.
And if it comes up in a not so good way, that's an indicator as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Like, be careful.
Mindful.
Be cautious. Be mindful. Watch yourself. Keep your eyes open. Those are some things that I say, okay, let me just kind of pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention to some patterns there. So those are key.
So to move into patterns, right? We often align goal setting with a certain time of year, whether it's New Year's, right? New Year's resolution, my goals, what am I going to do? A vision board, right? Or the academic year, the beginning of a school year. For me, it's a reset with my son as well, right? September, here more July, August, of just getting aligned with what you want to accomplish in your goals. So how can individuals leverage these milestones to be intentional about goal setting?
I think we should use them as reminders. Sometimes we get kind of locked in on the traditional and commercial kind of markers like New Year's, New Year's resolutions, and okay, the end of the year's coming, January comes, January 1st comes, I'm gonna da-da-da.
It's daunting.
Yeah.
It's
oh my
daunting.
goodness, yes. Or okay, February 1st, that's when I'm really gonna get to it, blah, blah, blah. But we don't really talk about like this time of year, like if it's either May, June, graduation time period, depending on what region of the country we're in, or if it's August, September, when the school years are starting up. But I do think that they do kind of trigger you to reflect a good bit, and especially this time of year, because for the most part, any individual who has completed or close to completed K through 12, it does bring about a memory of being in school. So whether you're at the grocery store, seeing the balloon section in Kroger, Publix, or Foodtown, Pathmark, ShopRite, exactly, class of 2024. If it's those individuals who are reflecting on their graduates of high school or college who 4 years ago graduated during the pandemic, those conversations are coming up a lot and reflections are coming up a lot. They do make you think about the 2020 graduates in that conversation. They do make you think about just your own experiences of school. If it's individuals who are coming out of kindergarten, pre-K graduations, 5th grade, 8th grade, high school or college, it does make you think about your own experience wherever, you had the most kind of memorable experiences or your last. And so you can think about, what comes about for you when I was that age, or when I was graduating high school, or when I was graduating college, I thought I would be. I was planning to do next, da 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 da. So for some individual, I think it may make you say, I thought I was going to do blah, 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 and that's what I'm doing. Or I always said I was going to do da da da, and what stopped me? Okay, I had children, or I lost someone close to me, or I had some injury or something, and that kind of threw me off. Am I too old to do that now?
Never.
But we can tell ourselves or talk ourselves out of it. We see people graduating from college at 70-something, 80-something, 90-something years old. So that doesn't have to be the end goal. The goal may not even be college related. It could be starting a new business. It could be moving to a different part of the country. It could be picking up a foreign language. It could be learning sign language. It could be something else, starting a business. It could be something else. But I do think that you can let it help you reflect on if there's some unfinished business. Is there something that if I were to die tomorrow, if I were to be told that I had 5 more years, or if I were to be told that I was going to be gifted $500,000 to spend on a goal, what would that be? I think that those are times that can help us to think through maybe I could. What would it take? And one of the biggest things, and we may talk about this a little bit later, is how you set goals. We talk about SMART goals, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Okay, all right, we can talk about that. But I use the SMART concept a lot with treatment planning for clients, and so but I think it's very important just for life goals anyway. Yeah. And so with the SMART goals, and there's a couple of different explanations for the different letters, but usually they stand for, the S is for specific. We can talk about that in more detail. The M for measurable, the A can be achievable or attainable, the R for reasonable or relatable for some people. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. The T for time bound or time specific. Hopefully I caught everything.
You did.
And so for the SMART, the S part for the specific, I'll give you an example. Like we'll take a child who's in school. Or a behavior. Someone could say, you know what, I need to improve my grades, or I need to improve my my health. And so for one person, improving my grades might be going from B's to A's. For another person, it may be not failing. Not failing for one person might be going from F's to D's. For another person or a parent, going from F's to B's may be not failing. Right. So you need to be specific, and what does that mean? Getting healthier for one person could be, I need to drink 8 glasses of water per day. For another, it could be, I need to just switch one soda, one pop to water, per day. And so we need to be specific, because when we're not specific, we can get distracted. It can, help us. It can help us get kind of thrown off or distracted from what the goal is, and we give ourselves wiggle room. You need to be flexible, but when you can see it and it's specific, it's easier to attain it. But we have a little too much wiggle room, it's easier to get off. Yeah. The achievable or attainable piece. Now, if I say tomorrow, I am going to drink 8 glasses of water, but right now I drink a 2 liter of soda every day, that's not reasonable. That's not a reasonable shift at all. So maybe it's going to be more realistic to say, okay, I'm going to try to drink at least 1 glass of water and not finish a 2 liter bottle, So let's see what's more reasonable than an unrealistic goal. Because when you have an unrealistic goal, an unachievable, not attainable goal, it's discouraging.
Yeah.
We give
you
up.
Just stop.
And you stop. You stop and you give up. And then what happens? You don't reach the goal.
No, right.
And so realistic, and they kind of go hand in hand, that realistic piece. Does it make sense that I can do this? Well, if you know that you're going to be traveling a lot, and you're going to be in an area where you're not going to have a lot of easily accessible, healthier options, this is probably a good time to start trying to work towards a healthier diet. This probably is not the time. You might need to wait until you get back from going to New York for the first time, where you want to try street tacos and a lot of different foods.
Cheesecake.
There we go. This isn't
all
the week.
Of that, all the things.
Yeah, all the things. This is not the week. This is not the week to do that. You know what I mean? So that's not really a realistic goal to start working towards that week. Okay, that's not the time. And then time specific. Does it make sense to set a goal to be healthy in 1 week? No, because we know
we would like to lose the weight in 1 week.
We would love to lose the. We would love it to do it. Does it make sense that it can happen? No. 1 pound maybe, but does it make sense? Is it attainable? No. And so even with change, what I talk to a lot of clients about, when there's a particular behavior that has been kind of set in place, if it's your entire life, 10 years or 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years, we do not expect it to change overnight. So we can't think that in 1 week, 2 weeks, or 20 weeks is going to change. It might not mean that it's going to take 20, 30, or 40 years, but we cannot expect that it's going to change overnight. So let's start with at least a week or 2 weeks. I like 3 months even. 3 weeks, 3 months. But what's a realistic kind of starting point? Because when it's so far off, it's like, okay, I'm going to try to do this for 6 months. I'm going to give up after week 1.
Yep.
Because 6 months seems way too far
Too
off.
much.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much time to get through. I saw somebody on social media who gave up sweets for like 1 month, and they were like, I think I'm going to try for another month. It's like, okay. I could see the shift in their appearance. They felt more accomplished, but they were trying to break it down. And so
Yeah.
like we're talking about task completion for each day, break it down, because when it's big, it's harder to even imagine accomplishing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, another milestone time that we didn't mention was Lent too, because you kind of strip some things away,
Yes.
right, of what I'm not going to do for 40 days, which can be a little stressful sometimes too. But
Yeah.
you know, like your friend had said, you know, no sweets. Was able to do it. And now, hey, I'm going to go another month.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so even with that, you said Lent, right?
Yeah.
And so for those, you know, who believe and are working through that period and depending on what happens, and you hear, okay, well, you might have messed up on this day, you can try again the next day.
Yeah.
And so
There's
how
always
hard,
tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow. But when you get very strict with it and think, well, Jesus didn't have that option, you know, and we can start beating ourselves up and saying, okay, well, you know, you're not Jesus, you know, so if that's who you're comparing yourself to. And so it's like, sometimes I think either we could be too strict in, you know, our expectation of ourselves, which can be damaging, you know, and then we can be maybe too flexible, and that can be damaging because you're not going to accomplish your goal,
right.
You know, and so, but I do think that kind of forgiving spirit, because when you are so harsh and so punitive and penalizing, that's why our penal system looks like it does, you know, and we're not rehabilitating. So if we do that to ourselves, we see what happens out in the real world to people who might really have a good heart and are really trying to do better, but are in a system that does not encourage them to reach goals that they really do want to attain. So why would we do that to ourselves?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's scary how we internalize that type of thinking, but it is, it's sad, but we do need to come from a place of, okay, I did make this mess up, I need to try again tomorrow. It doesn't mean it's completely blown. It doesn't mean that my thinking is completely off. It doesn't mean that I have no willpower,
right,
at all. And so it's a huge shift. It does take a huge amount of intrinsic motivation, internal motivation. It can take external motivation from a good accountability partner, you know, so and different kind of behavioral nudges and things like that, and apps and whatnot to help you stay on track. But you know, we know how to mute stuff when we don't want to be. We don't want to be reminded. You're like, okay, yeah.
Turn on focus. On the phone.
Exactly. I'm not doing it. I don't want to focus today.
So, and taking all of that in, and there's so much information coming from different places and people, and you're online, and you put in the hashtag goal setting, you're taking in all this information, right? Trying to sort it out, and it just becomes so overwhelming. How can you just filter out the noise to stay focused and centered on your goals?
How can you center out? I mean, focus.
Yeah.
Kind of quiet the noise that's going on, all that kind of stuff. I think a big part is going to be really just knowing you and what fits for you, because you can hear all of these different tips or pointers and see all these different apps, but you also can know yourself, and you're like, okay, Sigrid, you know that's not gonna help you. That might help for this person, but that's not gonna be the thing that's gonna help you. Because, for example, I know how to mute a notification. I know how to mute a reminder. I know how to remove, an app from my phone.
Turn the ringer off.
I can turn the ringer off. You know, I can remove this from my calendar. I know it's there. And so, really being clear about what will work and what doesn't work, for you. I think that's gonna be a huge thing. Talking to your mentors, talking to not just friends who can kind of gas you up and kind of say, oh, girl, you know you can do it, da-da-da.
The real friend.
The real friend.
Like, girl, you know that's not true.
You know that's not true. You know that's not realistic. You know that your schedule is like this, that, and the other. I'll give you a great example. My son wants to join marching band. Does he truly want to join marching band? I don't think so. Do his friends think that he should join it more from the camaraderie piece? Clearly, yes. They've wanted him to join it since last year. Does he play in the concert band? Does that fit more with his schedule? Yes, because the practice is a period during the day. When we're looking at the schedule and what it requires during the week, and even the marching band that performs during the games, he said, oh, I didn't think about the football games. I was like, well, that's the whole point of the marching band. And I was like, well, you're not ready. You're not ready. This is not the thing for you, because you don't even conceptualize that they practice multiple times during the week and they actually perform during the game.
On the weekend.
On the weekends. In the cold in Indiana, and you're from Georgia. My mother was in the marching band in high school over 60 years ago. Even she knew that this is not a good thing for him. So it's really this piece about knowing yourself. If you're starting to kind of question realistically, does this fit? Is this something I can do? There's certain things that you kind of know about yourself, and if that's something that you can make work, or you've got the you've got the wherewithal to be able to do A, B, and C. And so your real friends will tell you, yeah, I think that's something that you can do, or I think you're just making excuses. And so that's the piece that you gotta kind of talk through with your real friends, with a real mentor who can spell out to you, this is exactly what it takes. Can you do this?
Yeah. And then when you do it, and you have checked that goal off your list, many times we don't go into celebration mode. We keep going. We don't celebrate ourselves. Whether the celebration is a big celebration and goal like high school, or the small win that I was able to drink 16 ounces of water today. Right?
Yes.
So how do you personally celebrate your wins?
I probably don't do it as much. But sometimes it might be watching a program, a show or something that I really like to watch, and just do nothing, not folding clothes, doing some other task. It might be watching an old episode of Good Times, and it just takes me back to a period where, people I love who are no longer here were alive. I was a kid and life was just easy and simple. That's a gift to me, to be able to go back to that time period for, it might be one episode, it might turn into 3 or 4, especially on the weekends.
Where you can binge.
Where I can binge. But that gift of going back to a time, I would not take away who's here in my life now, but a time where everything was so simple, and it was just what game I wanted to play or which friends I wanted to play with. But everybody I love who's no longer here was still here, and everything was simple, and I didn't even know how simple it was. Then that's what watching those shows can take me back to. That's like a little mini gift or celebration of me. Dancing, a few minutes to dance, I'm also burning some calories and getting some steps in. Dancing, turning on my music, like that's a time that I usually give back to myself just about every day, in the morning or in the evening, and kind of have that little celebration. Not necessarily something I got to put on social media or tell everybody, about that I was able to do this or that, but giving something kind of back to myself, even if it's a mini celebration, and just like, okay, all right, you did that, you deserve that, you crossed those things, off your list.
Or playing a Prince song.
Or
Because you will text me every time I play a Prince song.
Every single time.
I get the pink, purple rain emoji.
Yes,
I'm like,
you do.
yep,
Every single time.
Kiss is about to come on, so it's about to text.
Yeah, about to text and about to tear up right now. He's always right there. Exactly. I have a Prince moment. Our birthday's coming up in a little bit. I'm excited. I think about it every day. Think about it every day. Those are things that I'm like, okay, that's a little gift. I
like your nails too.
Thank you. You think that. Catch everything. Those are gifts. I'm like, this is a purple day. You know what I mean? This is a purple day. This is a little purple day. Those are little gifts to me that I'm like, you know what? Okay, I deserve a little purple in my life. That's a gift. And so it's just little ways to kind of celebrate like joy, and a goal accomplishment. So I love it. I do.
This has been great. I absolutely love it. Just talking about setting goals, being honest with ourselves, and most importantly, when we set that goal and we accomplish it, to celebrate the win.
Oh, yeah.
We got to celebrate every W,
Yeah.
big or small.
Big or small.
Yeah.
Every
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Every time. Right. I'm with that completely. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Sigrid Elston. This is like your 4th time on Excel.
I
You
know.
got to come back and
Thank
hang out
you.
again. There's a couple of subjects I know we want to talk about.
Oh, yes.
We will definitely do that with you. But in the meantime, check out our episodes. We now have 10. Yay! You can follow us on all podcast platforms. And definitely, as you go out into your day-to-day, remember to exhale and be well.